You're locked into Inception Radio Network, Superior, Wisconsin.
And now your host of California MUFON Radio, Lorien Fenton.
Welcome, everyone, to the California MUFON Radio show here on Inception Radio Network. So happy to have you all here with me tonight. I have my good friend Plutronus with me. I can't wait to get into tonight's. We're going to tease you guys. That's what we're going to do. Plutronus and I are going to tease because he's one of my featured speakers at UFOCon 2015 coming up, not this weekend, but next weekend, March 28th and 29th in Santa Clara, California. So I think we're going to skirt around all the issues that he's going to be talking about, but we'll touch him a little bit. And then I'm going to poke the snake and talk about some things he doesn't usually talk about. He doesn't even know this yet, folks. So he's just finding out. So this is going to be a fun night tonight. We're going to have a really good time. So have you got your app? Have you guys all gone to InceptionRadioNetwork.com like I'm going to right now because I forgot to do it before the show? Oh, dear. Oh, you guys can all hear me typing away here. I'm going to try to get in chat and see what you guys are up to, because what we're going to do in the last half hour, maybe even 45 minutes of the show tonight, I'm going to let the chat room ask questions of Mr. Plutronus. So it's going to be kind of fun. We're going to do, I don't usually do phone calls, so what we'll do is we'll do questions from the chat room instead. So if you're getting on the call, if you're on the network right now and you can get into the chat room, that would be wonderful. So go to InceptionRadioNetwork.com, follow along with us, and then the last part of the show, we'll do some questions from you folks. It's a lot better than having the phone calls coming in because, gosh, it just disrupts everything, I think, and I think we get a lot better answers when you're not there going, listening. And, I don't need to explain this to you guys. You know what's going on. It's so much better when we do it from the chat. So if you're listening to the show live, get on the internet, on your phone, on your app from Inception Radio Network. I think you can get to the chat room from there. I never tried. MJ, you're going to have to answer that question for me in the Skype chat. Let me know. Can they get to the chat room through the app? Because I think the app is only telling me when the shows are coming, and I'm not sure if it actually does that. And if it doesn't, it's okay, but that's an interesting thing. Oh, yes, it does. Yay. Oh, I'm so excited. See me jumping up and down. Now that I know that, I'm going to use that app for more than just checking when the shows are starting. Boy, this is going to be great. Okay, so you guys you can get on your phone in the chat. You can get on your computer. You can get on your tablet. You can get anywhere and get to InceptionRadioNetwork.com and go to the chat room and join us there because we're going to do questions for Plutronus in the last part of the show. Okay, let's see. Okay, so it's working on Android right now. So, and then there's something going on with the iPhone, but it will be working soon, I'm sure. So there's that. Okay, I just thought I'd throw that in. Wasn't supposed to say it, I don't think. But hey, you never know. Apps are fun. You got to have them. Okay, so let's see. What was I going to go off about tonight? Oh, you guys, I just had the worst week. Okay, I'm going to do true confessions here on Inception Radio Network. Oh, I owe you guys a finish to my story also from last week. I think I was in the process of telling you about the woman coming through my wall. And I will do that in just a moment, but I'm going to share some of this is called Tribulations with Lorien. It's about what happens to her as a conference producer. You guys just wouldn't even believe this. I've got to, I've got a vent somewhere, so I might as well do it live on air because no one will listen to me. I try to corner them in my office. You got to hear this. I'm peeved, and they all go, "Oh yeah," and they all walk away, right? So, and I've got a captured audience, as they say. So, here's the deal. So Stan and Lisa can't make it to the conference now. You guys all know that I announced it last week. It's been a done deal now since the 8th of March. I'm now getting emails from people saying that I'm a scammer and that I promoted them falsely. Let's see, what else did I get? I got, oh, you wouldn't believe it. Saturday night, I was a wreck. And I very seldom do this, but I was really, really upset. I was really upset. And I had to curb my tongue in emails to people about the fact that I am Stan and Lisa's biggest promoter, and I truly believe in them, and that I don't know. I don't know how to explain it to people, but we really thought that Lisa, Stan, and I thought that they could be there in doing the conference, and we just never dreamed that the attorney would step in and so vehemently protest them being at the conference to the point where he would basically quit on them if he did it, because he said he didn't need any more fuel for the prosecuting attorney's fire. And I get it, and I totally understand it. And so did Lisa and Stan. Were just petrified that he'd even think about leaving them. He's the only person they can get. And, right now, I just didn't want to rock their boat any more than it's been rocked. And we honestly believe, folks, up until the 8th, that we could do this. When I called them, he knew on the 7th, but he knew I was calling him on Sunday, so he didn't rush to call me. That's for sure. He felt terrible. I can't even describe to you guys how bad he and Lisa felt about this whole thing. So anyhow, the bottom line to all this is, why are people that nasty? And why do they think I was out there trying to contrive all this for publicity's sake? I mean, I don't even get it. It's amazing to me how people think. They think I'm evil because of what happened. They think that they all want their money back. Oh gosh. And that's cute because, every last drop of income has already gone into the production. So where they're going to get that money from, I don't know, because the coffers are empty, folks. If you want a refund, which there are no refunds. If you read the website, it just basically says, sorry, no refunds. If you can't go, sell your ticket to somebody else. I mean, that's what everybody else does. So anyhow, I just had a really bad night, and I needed to tell you guys this, that there are some very nasty people out there, and I know you guys aren't any of them. I know that because you're listening to my voice, and thank you for letting me vent, because it's horrendous to be stuck behind a computer day in and day out, and nobody cares about what happens to you. Oh gosh. So that felt good. I feel really good right now. So thank you for that, everybody. That was great. Okay. So now let's see. I left you guys with, I had gone on a binge for the first time in my life and drank almost a fifth of vodka. And you know what? I never drank vodka after that again. Never touched it. Actually, I'm not a big drinker, so I just really probably never drank anything after that, hard liquor, because that was the day I think I broke up with a boyfriend. What else happened? We were at a party. Someone said, "Oh, have you ever had vodka?" And I'm like, "No, I didn't even know what it was." I think I was like 16. And no, I was 19. That's right. And it was at a frat party and some kind of party like that. Some college guys were there, and they were all like a couple years older than me, and I was like, oh, I know what it was. They said, have you ever had a screwdriver? And I said, no, I don't even know what that is. Oh, and I couldn't drink orange juice for 5 or 6 years after that either. Oh God, it was terrible. Anyhow, so needless to say, I've got probably alcohol poisoning at this point, and I'm laying in bed asleep, and I remember pushing up into a cat-like position in yoga where your head is up and your hands are in front of you on the floor and you're pushing up, and I see the back of my hair. And I'm like, what? And I'm so confused. This is the first time I ever went out of body. And I just was looking at the back of my head going, what in the heck is that? I had no idea. And I didn't really feel myself like normal. I didn't feel heavy. I didn't have there's hardly any weight to it. So that was another thing that was bothering my head in that moment too. It's like, how come I don't weigh anything? It was really an odd moment looking down at the back of my head and seeing my hair and the slight side of my face and my nose sticking out. So anyhow, while I'm contemplating this, I look over, I start seeing a bright light to my right. I look over, turn my head to my right, and I see the wall dissolve away and a bright white tunnel, just as bright as like the whole day sunshine brightness, opens up in my wall, and it's about 6 feet away from me, and it just opens up, and I see this woman coming at me, and she's walking down I don't think she's walking, she's probably floating at me, and she comes right up to 6 feet away from me, and she's beautiful. She's got dark hair. She's taller, not really tall, about probably 5'8" or 10, something like that. And she's wearing, I remember it was pink, and it looked like one of those Ascended Master outfits from the Saint Germain people and those kind of things. I can't even describe it to you. I know it had long sleeves. It had a bodice. It is empress type for those women out there who know what I'm talking about, where it's under the breast, the tie is, and it was very beautiful and really pink. I don't know where that stuck into my head, but I'm looking at this lady and I'm getting thoughts into my head from her. She's not speaking, but I'm hearing stuff and I'm going, what the heck is she talking about? All my brain could do is go, what is she talking about? And then I realize it's me. And that's where I got really freaked out. I was like, wait a minute, this is me. This isn't somebody else. This is me. And then I was really freaking out. And then I felt like she wanted me to come with her. And I thought, oh, I can't do that. And then the next thought in my head was, if I go with her, I will die. And I got so freaked out that I jumped back into my body. I mean, I literally dove that whole foot and a half from my head I slammed my head into my head on the pillow. And then I sat up completely in the bed I think they happened in one motion, literally in one motion. And it was wild. It was just wild. The worst part about this whole thing, folks, is I can't remember what she was trying to tell me. That's the part that really upset me much later in life. I was in my 30s, kept going, what was she trying to tell me? And I don't know. So I thought that maybe at some point in my life, since I know Barbara Lamb pretty well, that I may have a regression with her, not to check and see if the aliens have been in my house, but to check and see what that woman, that time-traveling me of myself woman, had to say to me at that time. Because, as you know, I have said this, maybe not on this show, but I'm starting to wonder if time travel isn't really the key to all of this. And when I say time travel, what I'm really saying is interdimensional travel that's simultaneously happening all at once. And I think that might even be the answer in the long run to my bunny rabbit story that many of you know about when I was a child at 7 years old-ish. We went to a fair. I fell in love with the rabbit. We come home, and there's the exact same rabbit sitting in the driveway at the house. And all these years, I had felt until I was in my 40s, I never even thought about it. And then in my 40s, I started thinking, God, that's the manifestation thing, where people are doing The Secret, all this stuff, I can manifest, yay, And now I'm starting to wonder if it isn't a me in a parallel time dimension trying to get my attention in this dimension by putting that rabbit there back in this timeline. Okay, I know it sounds like Back to the Future muddled up, but really, I'm starting to wonder if this isn't all interconnected. And it's interesting because the more and more UFO stories and alien connection stories that I dig into with all the different people that come to me and all the different people I talk to and my Black Ops connections, they're starting to ring with this ending story with some scientist always saying, unless you understand the Einstein-Rosen bridge connection and time travel, you'll never quite understand what's going on with the alien presence. And this leads me to what I want to talk with Plutronus about tonight. He doesn't know it yet, but I'm going to do that. So here we are. It's about 8:15 on a Saturday night. I wish it was Saturday night. It's Wednesday night here in California, about 8:16 p.m. And I am going to bring on my good friend Plutronus. Are you with me?
Yes.
Yes, there he is. Tron, I'm so glad you're here. Did you hear my story?
Yes, I did. I think that lady was saying, Lorien, don't be stupid. Come into the light. Come into the light.
Well, that's what I was afraid of. But then when I realized it was me and not just an angel of death coming to take me to the next dimension, I jumped back in my body because then I thought, oh, man, why am I coming here to see me? You know? So
it's what you're probably seeing was a reflection off your central pillar. And what was being done is you're being guided into the next gate. Okay?
Well, what does that mean? So you got to go back and you got to explain to the audience what a central pillar is and why you know about this, and I knew you did, so that's why I brought this up.
Well, you know, I don't think we have time to even scratch the surface, but there's something called a tree of life. It's an ancient Hebrew concept that the ancient sages, the guys who wrote our Bible, the original Bible, you know, before all the blabbers got a hold of it and turned it into a history book.
Well, I thought it was more like it's one of those gossip rags now. The gossip rag of the ages.
It really is. It's a gossip rag. Anyway,
go ahead.
The ancient writings on Earth in Hebrew, which originally, incidentally, as best as anybody can tell, all that information came out of Sumer. Okay, which is where the dragons first landed. So this is probably dragon information. And I suspect, it's a theory, I suspect that Hebrew was a dragon language, and that Sanskrit and Hebrew are both dragon languages. And, of course, Arabic is, you know, a derivative off of Hebrew. Our alphabet is the Latinized version of the words Aleph, Bayet, which are the first two letters of the Hebrew alphabet. What a coincidence. Aleph is letter A, and Bayet is letter B in our Latinized alphabet, but it's also the first two letters of the Hebrew alphabet, or Aleph, Bayet, as they refer to it. But anyway, in the most ancient writings on Earth, which is pertaining to God and divinity, talks about this energy template that's called the Tree of Life. Each and every one of us have one. We manifest in a physical form because of it. It doesn't manifest because of us. We manifest because of it. And all of the dimensions, which physicists are now in the process of discovering, are contained in the four dimensions of God's mind, which are mapped energetically onto the Tree of Life. The world that we're in right now is called the Asiya, or the world of activity, and that's where we manifest in the incarnate forms, what's called the neshama. Our physical body in Hebrew is called neshama, and our spiritual body, the soul body, is called the nefesh. It manifests and we exist in all four worlds, in all four dimensions, which are. Right. Now I'm getting to this. I'm getting to the Tree of Life. We're talking about the Tree of Life, but the Tree of Life is a fairly complex construct. we're all reflections of the one tree of life, which is God's tree of life. God's tree of life looks exactly like our tree of life, only it's perfect, and ours is imperfect. And what they call dirty reflection, the dirtiness or the cloudiness of the reflection is directly proportional to the amount of karmic conditions we've imposed upon ourselves. The little evil thoughts. I get even that guy, and I'll just tell this little lie over here. And I don't like that guy. I'll shoot him and bury him in the desert. All the things we've done through all of our life terms, karmic conditions, are stored in something called, in Sanskrit, the Akashic records, are stored in these spherical objects called sephira, which are spherical balls. They look like balls or spheres, and there are 10 of them, and they're on the tree of life. And what they do is they represent the different modalities of our thinking, our logic, our wisdom, our hate, our love, our lust, our stations of consciousness, just like in astrology.
Right, absolutely.
Okay, and the karmic conditions are stored as samskaric residue. That's Sanskrit, Vedic. Samskaric residue is the same thing as matzel or karma. It means exactly the same thing. The samskaric residue is karma stored on these sephira, and they're like shadows that form a crust. And then the next time you do something negative to yourself in that station of consciousness, it forms another shadow, which also becomes a crust. And at some point, they're like a clock, and when the clock starts unwinding, this tree of life manifests these realities. The physicists see them as timelines. That's what you're referring to, is that, well, maybe all these time strings are happening in parallel. That's what physicists are beginning to believe, is
Absolutely.
That all time happens in parallel. But because we have the sensation of separateness from the one self, which is God, we experience time as linear instead of as being parallel.
Exactly.
Now, and how our sephira unravel, how they unwind the karmic conditions, which creates our reality. Remember, we are reflections of God. So that means we're omnipotent, omnipresent. We're super beings. Each and every one of us are super beings, but we're so disconnected from ourselves, we don't know how to use it. And for good reason, too. You wouldn't want God. You wouldn't want Hitler running around being God. He was a pretty rotten. He was an SOB, right? You wouldn't want those ISIS guys over there, those thugs cutting off little children's heads with knives. You wouldn't want them having magical powers.
No, that would be a good thing. But hey, okay. Wait, now before we go on here, you're bringing up a whole bunch of questions for me. So,
okay, now I haven't gotten to the central pillar yet.
Okay, go ahead, get through this whole thing, and then I'll start firing them at you. Okay.
Okay, these sephira, there are 3 on each. There, if you picture 3 poles, okay. With the 3 poles parallel on a standing vertical. There's a pole on the left side, there's a pole in the middle, and a pole on the right side. Down at the bottom, the 2 poles merge down to the 3rd pole, like a point. At the top, the 2 poles on either side merge to the one in the middle at the top. Okay, there are these pathways between the balls. They crisscross in the middle. They crisscross across the middle pole. And where they crisscross, there's a sephira. There's only 10 sephira. 3 on the sides. There's 4 in the middle. Okay, straight up and down, there's 4 sephira in the middle, and there's 3 on the sides, making 10 sephira. The middle pillar is where love exists. In consciousness, it's also where white light exists. In consciousness, the only place white light exists is in consciousness. Our eyes see red, green, blue. Our minds see white. Okay?
Oh.
So white light only exists. So when you see white light, you're seeing light that is generated only in consciousness because it's the only place it exists. It does not exist in nature. Okay, the central pillar and the centermost sephira is called Teferets. It's the sun center. In astrology, it's the representation of the sun, or Ra. In Hebrew, it is the source of life. It's light. It's love. It's the central pillar. If you exist, when you focus your consciousness to the point and you clear out your matzel, meaning you decrystallize the karmic conditions that are recorded in your sephira on the left and right columns of the 3-column tree of life, when you clear them and they make them perfectly clear, your consciousness moves to the center pillar. And at that point, when you've moved fully in the center pillar, you're no longer under the influence of the angels, which exist in the side columns, and you're no longer under the influence of the demons, the creatures. There are creatures in the side columns. You don't want to be on there because all kinds of little, wormy, squirmy things going on in there. And just like in physics, it's all about energy. Okay?
Yeah.
If it moves, it eats. The way it works in the universe, if it moves around, it eats. Okay?
But wait now, slow down. Slow down a second. I want you to relax. And what we're going to just one quick question before you go on about this. If you're in love center, is it just a column of emotion, or is that really God's consciousness there? I mean, what is love as far as you're concerned?
Well, I don't know. That's a complicated question. Love, emotional love, is a physical awareness. We're talking about a multidimensional awareness here.
Yes, exactly. Because, I think love here on this planet isn't anything like the love I experienced when I was taken to the place of love. And now you've just answered a question that's been burning in my brain for years. Where did they take me when that angel touched my forehead and I went to that place of love? They took me to the pillars.
I don't know where they took you.
Well, but as far as
Center.
What you just said, that's probably what happened.
Well, I don't know. It depends on. Okay. Let's talk about the 4 dimensions.
Okay.
The bottom level of the tree of life. On the bottom level of the tree of life, there are 4, because you got one on the left-hand side, one that's a little bit. If you draw a sephira on the far left-hand side at the bottom and far right-hand side at the bottom, and draw a line straight across, there's a sephira there, but it's not quite in line with those two, and it drops down a little bit. And then there's one down below that. That's 4 sephira. Those 4 sephira make up what we call the Asiya, or Malkut. Malkut is the world of activity. That's where we are right now. In the Kabbalah, this state of consciousness is known as the sleeping state. Why? Because your eyes are open. Your eyes are open and you're thinking. And you're sound asleep in that state. You're not really aware of what reality really is, because you're awake with your physical sentences, which causes you to be in a heavier frequency, a heavier density of consciousness.
I got you.
The next 3 sephira up, of which Teferets is one of them, incidentally, the next 3 sephira up is called Yetzirah. And I talk about Yetzirah a lot because it's where the alien craft.
And you know what? We're going to have to stop right now and talk about Yetzirah when we come back, because we've hit our first break, folks. So stay with us. We got lots more with Tron here, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about UFO Con and who's going to be there, and Tron's going to tell you what he's going to be presenting, and we'll be right back. So stay around.
You're locked into Inception Radio Network. Superior, Wisconsin.
Don't have a computer? Is your internet connection down? Don't worry. Use your trusty cell phone or landline and call into our listen line at 401-283-6700 to listen to the Inception Radio Network 24/7. Again, that call-in number is 401-283-6700. For the Inception Radio Network, I am MJ.
Hi, Inception Radio Network listeners. This is Amanda. Just a reminder that Inception Radio Network is on Twitter. Follow us at I_R_N and keep up to date about who's on tonight, what interviews they'll be doing, who's guest spotting, what topics they'll be covering. Tweet to us, tweet about us, retweet topics to your friends, and most importantly, never miss a great show again. That's I_R_N.
Do you have a smartphone? If so, Inception Radio Network is the best app for you. Available on iTunes, Android, Samsung, and most other app stores. Just search Inception Radio Network. With the app you can listen live, check out podcasts of recent and past shows, view our videos, see what shows are coming up, who the guests are, and, via the chat room, send live questions to those guests. You know it makes sense. Check your app store now. Inception Radio Network. I'll see you there. Are you a fan of Inception Radio Network? Do you reckon it's the best alternative talk radio station on the planet? Well, if you do, head to facebook.com/Inception Radio Network and like the page. Tell your friends, spread the word, and keep listening to the best.
Hello, everyone. Lorien Fenton here, host of the California MUFON Radio Show, asking if you'd like special access to exclusive and amazing information about UFOs, the paranormal, and all things unexplained. If you're nodding yes, then join IRN's Insider Club. As an Insider Club member, you'll get an all-access pass to premier Inception Radio Network content for only $4.99 a month. This includes live UFO and paranormal conferences, live streaming UFO skywatches, exclusive IRN radio and TV productions, and of course, paying radio with MJ and Ken Storch. So don't wait any longer. Visit InceptionRadioNetwork.com and click on Member Login to join IRN's Insider Club and get your VIP access today. Welcome back, everyone, to the California MUFON Radio Show. I'm your host, Lorien Fenton, and we're here tonight talking about UFOCon and other things that Tron is super, super familiar with. But before we do, I just wanted to say I haven't been pushing MUFON as much the last couple of weeks because I'm entrenched with UFOCon right now. But I really want everyone to really, if you can, get down to the MUFON website. That's MUFON.com, MUFON.com, and check them out because I really, really want you all to join up to MUFON. Get your newsletter, and don't forget the MUFON Symposium is coming up. It's going to be on the West Coast this year. For all of those who are listening to my voice right now, as soon as UFOCon is over, boy, I'm pushing the MUFON Symposium because it's going to be awesome this year. Really awesome. Go check it out on the website. That's MUFON.com and MUFON.com, MUFON.com. I keep forgetting to say the call letter, so I've got to do that. So it's MUFON.com, and also become a chapter participant. Please, please go to your nearest chapter. Find out when they have their meetings. Most of them are having meetings now. I talked to Jan Harzen at International UFO Congress, and he is assuring me that more and more of the chapters are starting to have meetings. There was a while there that there were quite a few chapters that weren't really having meetings, and if they did, they were pretty sporadic and what have you. But more and more people are so interested in the UFO phenomena and the alien connection that it's becoming just one of those things that if a MUFON meeting sprouts up on meetup.com, people are flocking to them. So I want you guys to go check out meetup.com near you. I want you to check the chapters on the MUFON site. I want you to do everything you can to get to a meeting near you. And I want you to support the smaller conferences that I have, and also the very large ones like the MUFON Symposium and International UFO Congress. I know it's a financial burden in many cases to go to the big ones. The smaller ones like mine are a little more affordable and they're a lot more intimate. But still, and just getting to a meeting with 30, 40, 50 people, that's an amazing thing unto itself. So I really, really encourage you guys all to do that. And because like MUFON really helped change my life at a point in my life where I was deciding where I wanted to go and what direction I wanted to take it in. I decided I was going to start a MUFON group in my area because we didn't have one. And, I just realized that I should be telling all of you out there who say, well, we don't have one near us. Why don't you guys start one? It's not hard. It's just you go to your state director, you get to know them, they'll vet you, they'll decide if you're a good enough person to have the meeting. And believe me, everybody's good enough. You don't have to have any smarts. You just have to have the drive and the organizational skills, which are not that hard to find a place and put on a meeting once a month. And, you guys, it's easy. Just do it. And then you can be the one announcing that there's going to be a meeting near you, and you can get all your friends that you're in your community. They'll all show up. It'll be great. See, now this could be a really cool thing. Maybe that's what I got to start doing here. Is I just got to start saying, you guys start meetings. Anyhow, Jan's probably like shaking his fist at the radio right now going, oh no, that's a lot more work for me. But it's good for him. We got to keep him on his toes. So there you are. Okay, folks, remember that. MUFON, you get to a meeting near you. If you can't make one, go to one and look that other person in the eye and talk to them about UFOs and aliens and all things really cool. All right. Okay, Plutronus, are you still with me?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, dear. Okay, now you were talking about Yetzirah.
Yetzirah, okay. Yetzirah is one of the 4 dimensions of God's mind, according to the Kabbalah, and, by the way, was originally in the Bible, but has been, everything magical pertaining, what part of God is not magical, incidentally? But everything got to do with magic. Or the concepts of magic has been systematically removed from the Bible. There are little hints of it here and there, and in fact, there's little blurbs if you know where to see them and where to look. There are little blurbs about astrology cards, about astrology, and about tarot cards, and you can still see little hints of it here and there that the control mongers missed. And they're, cutting the pieces out. Okay, Yetzirah is one of the 4 states of God's mind, one of the 4 dimensions. Each of these dimensions have subdimensions. They're different levels. They're different levels of states of consciousness. The second dimension up, as I say, is Yetzirah. Everybody actually knows about this dimension. They refer to it in the Sanskrit form of astral. It's the astral plane.
Oh, okay.
Yetzirah and astral means exactly the same thing. The word astral is Sanskrit. The word Yetzirah is Hebrew. They mean exactly the same thing. They're exactly the same states of consciousness. So when you're out there flying around, you're dreaming that you're flying with little wings, you're astral traveling. That's what they call astral projection. We'll call that Yetzirah projection. It's the same exact thing. Okay. It's raining here.
What? It doesn't rain where you're at?
It is. It's raining here. We got a water drought. We're having to count the number of times we flush our toilet, but it's raining.
Oh, my God. Well, we'll just let everybody know you're in somewhere in California, right?
Yeah, we're in Shake and Bake, California.
Oh, dear.
Okay, so the Yetzirah is the second dimension up. Mystics and secret brotherhood schools, and they're secret not because they're out there cooking babies like that babbler Icky is always claiming. The secret brotherhood schools, I'm speaking of the Masons and the Rosicrucian groups, they teach us how to access the higher dimensions consciously. That's what the secret schools are all about, is they teach you how to move from the ASEA, with your eyes open into yet zero with your eyes open. Generally speaking, most people enter yet zero when they fall asleep, and they don't really remember. They don't really remember being in yet zero, and if they do, they remember it as a sort of a wispy kind of a dream that disappears instantly. Okay, but yet zero is one of those states of consciousness where you want to be doing spiritual operations. You learn to move and do your spiritual operations up in there because time and space become nullified.
Exactly.
That's why the alien spacecraft operate in yet zero.
Exactly.
They bilocate. The Russians are aware that the disks bilocate. They pop up into yet zero. Somehow or another, they move the physicality of the craft up into the next dimension, and then they dream themselves around the universe. They astral project the spacecraft around inside of yet zero. This is called psionics. The Russians are about 75 to 100 years ahead of us in psionics, technically.
Oh, absolutely, but there are many, many people out there that are beginning to wonder if we haven't had a really good, very aggressive psionics program going on here in the Black Ops military lately, Tron, because these guys are getting into people's heads. They're doing all kinds of things that are pretty
Somebody's
scary
getting into their
trippy.
heads.
Yeah.
Somebody's getting into their heads. People think it's automatically think it's our military. I'm the victim.
What do you think?
I'm the victim of a psionic attack. I went to that barbecue.
So what did you feel when they were inside your head? Did they say, I'm a military guy, or did they talk to you like that?
No, they didn't talk. First of all, they weren't just inside my head. They were the people that were hammering me were trying to kill me. They weren't just inside my head. They weren't making me get up, move my arms and legs around, and say nasty things to people. The side column creatures do that kind of stuff. No, the kinds of things that was going on is my fingertips were turning blue, and my lips were turning black, and my heart was palpitating, and I was beating at like 400 beats a second kind of thing, and I was going into cardiac arrest. That was the kinds of things that was happening with me. And when we got that under control, then the cancer tumors popped out all over my body. And we got that. By the way, the same thing happened to Stephen Greer. Same thing happened to him. And Sherry Adamek, his girlfriend.
Right.
Same thing happened to her, only she succumbed to it. She died of cancer. Yeah. And it happened to, I can't tell you how many people I know who get too close to the alien truth, die of cancer or strokes. The most common with it, three things happen to ET researchers. They die of cancer, they die of heart attacks, they die of brain tumors.
Absolutely.
Three members of my research group, which I'm not at liberty to disclose that name of that group. Three members of my research group, so all scientists, all three of them died of brain diseases. And they all contracted it within 12 hours of us saying negative things about the Men in Black. So, my impressions.
Now, you and I have talked about this before, but I never remember you telling me it happened within 12 hours of anything.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Every member of my group, I'm talking about 40 scientists, every member of my group dropped out within a 12-hour period of when we crossed the line with the Men in Black. Three members of that group died of brain tumors. My very good friend who just passed away, he died of a heart attack. Sun Yun Wang, he's a scientist, a famous computer scientist, and radar physicist. And he was a member of my group and also my very good friend. And he and I talked about these things. So I have his, even though it's posthumous, I had his permission to talk about these things.
Right.
I can't talk about the other people because they had reputations. They were associated with the SETI Institute and various organizations. And Robert Bigelow.
Okay. Tron, are you still there?
He developed a blood disease.
I lost you for a second there. I'm just wondering if MJ lost you as well. Probably not. It's probably just me hearing a lag. So anyhow, go ahead. What were you saying? I heard Bob Bigelow and then it dropped off.
my friend Sun Yin Wang told he ended up in the hospital. He developed a blood aneurysm in his right hand and lost control of his middle finger. He was a concert pianist, among other things.
Oh, wow.
And he ended up with a brain condition that eventually killed him. That's what eventually killed him. And this was on the same within 12 hours when my attacks began, and my 3 senior scientists plus my friend Sun Yin Wang, who was acting as a consultant to the group.
Jesus. Oh my gosh.
Okay.
I'm like blown away.
That's my experience. And from 2001 until just recently, I've been under a psychic's care. I had the constant help of a Kabbalah mystic who helped me for 3 years, every day, for up to 1 hour a day for free, every day to help me get rid of the alien mind control.
Wow.
Now, during the time you asked me what I thought about this when it was happening to me, at the time I knew I was being attacked, but I didn't know who it was. My friend, the Kabbalah mystic who was helping me, her name is Millicent Coleman. She passed away of cancer. She believed that it was the military doing it.
Now that's intriguing. Now, wait, stop there. Why did Millicent believe it was the military? Had she had some doings with them? I mean, had they been after her?
No. I had originally intended. She was a little background on Millicent. She was extremely well read. She was extremely well read. You go to her house, she had books in every room, every corner of her house. She was also what they call a ghostwriter. She co-authored or authored books for other authors, and they would pay her, and she didn't get the credit, but they would take the credit for her writings.
Oh, wow.
One of her expertises was dream interpretation. She had a master's degree in psychology, dream interpretation from UCLA, and she had a PhD in clinical psychology, which is kind of a strange. It's a kind of a strange a degree because you can't really be a clinician unless you're also a psychiatrist, as I understand things. I just found this out recently. But she was a clinical psychologist. I don't know how that works, but that's what she was. So in addition to that, she was an Amorc Rosicrucian, like me. That's how I met her, was through Amorc Rosicrucian Order. I've been a member since I was a child. And she's the one who got me started in BOTA, which is another Rosicrucian group. I found her because I was trying to find somebody who was mystical, who was trained. I wanted a trained psychic. You don't just go out and get psychics off the ground because they're too airy-fairy. They don't have any discipline. So I was out looking for Rosicrucian psychics because they're trained. They know how to access things. And I was doing my Loomis orb experiments with my ETP, and which I'm going to bring to the conference and let everybody see. It's a gadget I made.
Oh, thank you for announcing that. I'm so excited. When we get back after our next break, and you're going to continue on with what you're talking about, let's talk about your machine, okay? Because I want people to know what you're bringing. Okay, let's not forget that.
Okay,
all right,
so
go ahead.
I was looking for a trained psychic to operate my platform for this Loomis orb experiment I had designed, and she was one of the people that I interviewed as a candidate. She declined because she thought it might be dangerous, and I was clueless, and I thought, oh, he's not going to hurt me.
Oh yeah, isn't it funny now in our old age we just go, what?
Oh yeah. So I ended up with a MUFON member who also happened to be a member of the board of directors in LA, and she was a remote viewer, and I trained her, and I used her for the experiments instead, and I ran anyway. So that's the background of this woman. She knew a ton about ET. She had books on every subject on the planet, mostly on mysticism, physics, psychology, and ET. She knew all about HARP. She knew all about MK Ultra. She was up on everything. She and I did not agree on a variety of things, especially about HARP. I know a ton about HARP. But
yeah, and you and I have we're not always on the same page, but we're very close, aren't we?
Right, we are. So when she started talking to me about this being, the military doing it, I didn't know what was going on because I was being so twisted at the time. I was under so much duress and so much pain. I mean, hours in and hours out, I have this loud whistling noise radiating from the back, through the back of my head. My ears were ringing. When the attacks would start, it'd feel just like a pole was shoved through my chest into my heart. I could hardly breathe. I'd cough up blood. My fingertips were turning blue. I mean, I was in trouble, man. And Millicent, I'd call her up on the phone and say, I'm under attack. And she'd say, okay. And she'd hang up, and about 5 minutes later, the pain would disappear. And what she was doing was holding me. She did this every day for 3 years.
Oh, my God.
I'm not
what a
kidding
saint.
you, man.
Man, this woman is a saint.
She is a saint.
Yep.
It became so, and then she's the one who taught me psychically how to encase myself in a ball. In a mirrored ball. She taught me that psychically. I mean, I did not. I just one day woke up and knew how to do it. It was because she was teaching me psychically how to do it. She also had a friend that was helping her, who is also a mystic, whom I'm not at liberty to disclose.
Okay.
But both of them, plus members of BOTA, worked on me. I was at the same time a member of the Baha'i Church. I went through this really weird. I can't. It was weird. I had this strong calling to be with Arabs. I mean, it was an incredible, strong drive to be around Arabs, and I joined the Baha'i Church. And guess who I've met? You'll never believe this. Stephen Greer.
Oh, now that's interesting. That's the last place I would have expected him to show up.
He had a calling. Something called him, and he felt the calling to go join the Arab Church.
Oh, that is so crazy.
Well, you got to understand that. So this mind control MK Ultra thing, all right, in my opinion, is probably an Arab's magic attack on citizens, on the people who are psychic enough in America. The ones who are psychic enough, because I was raised as a mystic. I spent my entire life. I mean, I was cocky. That's part of the reason why I was being cocky, Buzz, because I thought I knew everything. From 4 years old until like in my 40s, I'd been a member of a mystical order, secret brotherhood, learning mysticism. Magic.
Yeah.
God magic, ascension magic. I thought I knew everything. It never occurred to me that there might be whole covens of people in other countries who hate our fucking guts out there sending an F-bomb, and they hate our guts. They hate our guts so much they grab us and put us on YouTube and cut our people's heads off with butcher knives. That's how much, and they do it in such a way that it takes out. They don't cut the carotid artery first. They make sure the person feels every minute.
Now, this is a child show, and I know how passionate you are about this. I do understand completely, but we got to not get into the gory detail here.
We don't want to talk about the truth.
Well, no, we can't talk. Hey, we can do that on Monday on my other show if you'd like to come on. Right, I'm ready for it.
The point to this is that, well, I know that our government, those stinky, rotten, dishonest, licentious, feather-bedding, lying, cheating, corrupt politicians that we
I'm sorry I'm laughing, but that's pretty good for not going into the F-bombs.
Okay. They're different from the military. The military at the high-ranking guys are politicians also at some level. There's an old saying that goes something like this. I didn't invent the first part. The second part's my part. But the first part says, them who can do, them who can't teach, them who are worthless but are charming manage.
Oh dear.
Okay.
Well, I hope I'm not worthless. I think I'm a good manager.
Well, we're talking about people like generals.
Oh, okay. I gotcha.
We're talking about the guys who have affairs with their biographers, disclosing secrets, military secrets. Yeah. Okay, we're talking about those kinds of politician generals. Okay, those kinds of guys are probably capable of doing all kinds of evil things. But I can tell you, the average Army personnel, the majors, the colonels, the lieutenant commanders, the captains, the sergeants, the techs, the E1s, they're just like, they're your mother, they're your mothers, your fathers, your brothers. They're Americans. These people aren't sitting around thinking of evil ways to mind control everybody. And you can put a black ops label on them as much as you want to, but that doesn't change the fact that they're just people like you and me. Okay, and I just don't believe it.
Yeah,
but
I don't
doubt.
necessarily agree that they aren't doing it, but I'm saying I think you're right. I think 99% of them aren't that way. I agree.
They don't know enough black magic to do stuff like this. But I can tell you what, the Arabs are a whole different deal.
Now, are we talking now? Wait, because we got to clarify here, because it sounds like we're being very prejudiced against the Arab community.
I am being prejudiced against the Arab community because they're the ones that are probably doing it.
Well,
they sure as hell are cutting off people's heads.
Well, I know that, but let's just step back
and sending little children in with bombs strapped to their stomachs.
I know. Now let's just step back a second and let's qualify this so that I don't get the backlash here on my next show. But let's qualify this with the fact that there's 99% of those people just live and survive day to day, and they don't do this kind of thing.
That's not true.
You don't think so?
Nope.
Really?
First of all, everything we see on American news is spin doctored.
Okay. Now, guess what? I have to stop you because it's our break. Not because I'm trying to stop you from talking about it. But we do have to do that. But I will. We're gonna pick that up when we get back right after the break. So everybody, stay with us. We've got the fired up Tron here tonight. So stick around.
You're locked into Inception Radio Network, Superior, Wisconsin.
Don't have a computer? Is your internet connection down? Don't worry. Use your trusty cell phone or landline and call into our listen line at 401-283-6700 to listen to the Inception Radio Network 24/7. Again, that call-in number is 401-283-6700. For the Inception Radio Network, I am MJ.
Are you a fan of Inception Radio Network? Do you reckon it's the best alternative talk radio station on the planet? Well, if you do, head to facebook.com/Inception Radio Network and like the page. Tell your friends, spread the word, and keep listening to the best.
Hello, Inception Radio Network listeners. This is Amanda. Remember, you can take your Inception Radio shows on the go. Just download the Inception Radio Network app for your iPhone, iPad, or Android smartphones and access live shows, past shows, guest lineups, and much more. Just visit the iTunes Store or the Google Play Marketplace and download it today for free. You didn't forget what's coming up tonight, did you? Hi, Inception Radio Network listeners. This is Amanda. Never miss that interview you were looking forward to or the show on your favorite topic. Follow IRN on Twitter, I_R_N, and get reminders about the evening's live shows as well as fun and important updates throughout the week. That's I_R_N, and never miss a great show again.
Hello, everyone. Lorien Fenton here, host of the California MUFON Radio Show, asking if you'd like special access to exclusive and amazing information about UFOs, the paranormal, and all things unexplained. If you're nodding yes, then join IRN's Insider Club. As an Insider Club member, you'll get an all-access pass to premier Inception Radio Network content for only $4.99 a month. This includes live UFO and paranormal conferences, live streaming UFO skywatches, exclusive IRN radio and TV productions, and of course, paying radio with MJ and Ken Storch. So don't wait any longer. Visit InceptionRadioNetwork.com and click on Member Login to join IRN's Insider Club and get your VIP access today. Welcome back, everyone, to the California MUFON Radio Show. I'm your host, Lorien Fenton, here on Inception Radio Network. And, by the way, we're on a couple other affiliates now. IRN has been kind enough to spread me far and wide, and I think MUFON's happy about it, too. So there's other affiliates out there, and I'm going to just say one of them tonight, and that's Iron Horse Network. And I just want to thank them for bringing me on board, and they're fabulous. And you know what? I just said their name wrong. I can't believe I did that. It's Firehorse Network. It's Firehorse. And it's Firehorse Network, firehorseradio.com, whatever it may be. But anyhow, you guys can find them. If you need me at somewhere else, you can find me there too. But I just want to thank them, and I want to thank IRN for allowing it all to happen, because it's just great, because it gets the word out more and more about everybody and what we're doing. So I'm just thrilled about that. So anyhow, we were talking to Plutronus, and we had just talked about how the Arab connection is, and he was talking about where mysticism comes from. And I think that's where we left off, right, Plutronus?
Yeah, well, actually, I shouldn't say that mysticism comes from Arabia. It's just that everything that's known in the public domain, generally, in other words, information that doesn't originate in underground, white brotherhood schools.
Yeah.
Okay. The information, everything that's known in the public domain is generally from Arabia. You know, Aladdin's lamp, flying carpets, jinn, the genie in the bottle. All that stuff is Arabic. They are steeped in a level of mysticism. The whole culture is. I mean, when you look at any videos that come out of Arabia, they're always leaning down, kissing the ground, man. It's all about Allah. They take over an airplane. The last words out of their mouth is "Glory be to God, to Allah." You know, that's what they're doing, man. They're all in the service of the jinn.
Wow, very interesting. Very interesting. Now I asked you on the break to talk about the jinn a bit. Can you do that for us?
The jinn. What little I know about this subject. The jinn has its origins in the side column creatures of the tree of life. Okay. The jinn are exactly the same thing as the devil in the Bible. Comes from the same source. The information comes from the same source. It is the archangel Uriel. In Hebrew, it's called Uriel. In Arabic, it's called jinn, or Bakrat. Now, Bakrat is a word that means evil action, but it's synonymous with devil. But the interesting thing, I find very interesting, is that the relationship between the devil, the Bakrat, Satan, and the jinn all have exactly the same pictorial renditions throughout history. If you go and look at the Jewish drawings, the Catholic drawings from way back when, we're talking about centuries and centuries ago, For some reason or other, they had pictures and cave drawings and carvings and statues of these beings in that time period for some reason. We don't seem to have that awareness about it today as the ancients once did. My guess is because they were actually flying around in our skies at that time. But the ancients seem to have a different, an accurate pictorial representation of these beings. Every place on planet Earth where the ancient peoples were doing drawings and had religious drawings, every culture on Earth has pictures of jinns, gargoyles, dragons, devil, and reptilians. And they all look exactly alike.
And don't we have grays pretty much around the world as well on cave drawings and all different kinds of places as well?
There are some drawings that look like that, but it's not universal.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
I don't think of grays as being there's something going on with the jinns, the genies, the baccarat, the devil, Satan. There's something going on, Uriel. There's something going on there that's not obvious to human beings. And it has been historically and systematically, all of those affiliations, all of those mechanizations have been systematically removed from our consciousness by something or somebody. We have vestiges, we have minor awarenesses of the devil. Somebody once told me, a Christian once told me this. He says the greatest trick the devil ever pulled on humanity was to convince us that he doesn't exist.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, when you stop to consider the fact that Uriel is a side column angel that exists in the side columns of our consciousness. It is one of the angels, one of the named angels. There are actually around 14, I think there's 14 or 15 named angels, according to Ari Kaplan, who is sort of a expert. He's an expert in Kabbalah. He was a Jewish Hebrew scholar, recognized world over. He wrote a book called Sefer Yetzirah. It's an English translation, has the original Ezra Hebrew version and the English translation, and then then from a Jewish Hebrew Kabbalah mystic
Tron, are you still with
perspective,
me?
He just I've been working on it for hello.
I can hear you just fine.
I've been reading that book and studying that book for 9 years. It's very slow reading. There's a lot to learn. The point of all this is, and this is touching on one of the subjects that's near and dear to me, because it's so hard to talk about with the general public because they know so little about mysticism.
Yeah, absolutely. Mysticism is the big no-no in our society. We're
That's
just not
exactly
allowed
right.
To have it. So how do you do it? At one point, I think I told you this story. I walked into a Masonic lodge when I was about 16, and I said, I want to join up. And they looked at me like I was a pariah. It's like you're not allowed to just walk into any of these places and even ask. You have to be sponsored.
Masonic
you have
Order is a male.
into it.
It's a male version. The Eastern Star is the female version.
Well, that's what they said. They said, what you mean is you want to join the Eastern Stars. And I said, yes, because I didn't know about it. I hadn't done any research on it. I just thought it'd be cool to join. And I walked in trying to join, right? And I found out about it. I did a lot more research, obviously, after that, when I realized there was the Eastern Stars, and I did the whole bit.
Turns out you can't just join either.
You can't join. You have to be born into it or sponsored. And it's
you have to be sponsored.
Yep, and very few people are ever sponsored that are brought in. I found that out too.
Yep. It's
mostly bloodlines and families.
That's right. That's right.
And
there's a reason for it.
Yeah, go ahead. Why?
Well, that's another subject. Let's get back to the reptilians.
Okay, back to the reptilians. Sorry.
May we talk about the reptilians? I'd love to talk about the Masonic Order, but that's a whole nother. There's a reason for it.
That's a whole nother show. Okay. Go ahead.
The reptilians I want to talk about this because I went out in search of extraterrestrials in 1992 when I found out my mother had been a gray abductee and that she wasn't crazy.
Right.
And all that misery and the electroshock therapy and the losing of our home and she being arrested out the base. I mean, it was nasty, man.
Yeah, you
It was
went
nasty.
through. People don't know this, folks, but his mother went through absolute hell, and poor Plutronus had to watch it all happen, which is even worse, I think, in some cases, because the kids, at that point, what do you do?
Yeah, I was 15
Anyhow, go
years
ahead.
old. 15 years old, it caused the destruction of my family. It caused my brothers and sisters. We ended up living in foster homes. I mean, it was nasty, man.
Yeah.
I came to find out 2 weeks after she passed away that she was an ET abductee. And because of that, I was obsessed with knowing more about ET contact. It wasn't theory. It wasn't speculation. I know for a fact that that ET are here and that they're interfering in our lives. Okay.
Yep.
So like 20 years of learning curve evaporated right before my eyes. I was not interested in ET at all. And I went from zero knowledge to being obsessed to knowing as much as I could know about it. And just going to UFO MUFON meetings wasn't enough for me.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
It wasn't giving me enough information fast enough. So I went out, created my own research group. I staffed it with scientists. I started conducting my own field experiments. I very quickly discovered that there was a metaphysical aspect to it, but I wanted to decouple myself from the experiments, even though I'm a student of mysticism and I'm fairly psychic. You can't conduct your experiments. You can't have operators if you're part of the experiment.
That's
so
right.
I was getting somebody else to do it through this process. And in summary, I went out to look for ET and I found the Kabbalah.
Oh, that's interesting.
I found the escape manual for humanity. That's how I look at the Kabbalah, is the escape manual for humanity. What does that mean? It means that we're all living in a great big cage, and the way they interface with us is in such a manner that it's beyond our cognition space. We cannot understand how we're being used any more than Charlie Tuna in the sea knows he's going to end up on somebody's plate over there in the Aroma Cafe down on Sunset Boulevard. Okay?
Yeah, you're right.
It's so beyond our cognition space. It's beyond our ability to recognize and understand it. And when you get into starting to understand how ET might think, how they might think differently from us, one of the processes that you do when you're looking at it technically is you begin to see that there are different memory models. They're consciousness models.
Exactly. That's very interesting you brought this up. Go forth, please, because I want the audience to really hear this.
Consciousness models, give an example, for instance. The ants that are living in your garden out there, do you really think that they're aware of you? You coexist with them. The only time we communicate, and our only way of communicating with them is through a can of Raid. Okay?
When they come in the house. That's right.
That's right.
When their landscape changes.
When their landscape changes, they come in our house looking for dinner, and we communicate with them with a can of Raid. That's our only unilateral communication method with these guys. Okay? We're outside of their cognition space. They're outside of our cognition space. Now, we're aware of them because we can see them. Most ants don't have eyes. They can't see us. Only thing they rely on is smell and touch and vibrations. That's their only sensibility of our presence. Yeah. But beyond that, they don't have any connection with us whatsoever. Well, if you look at the ET in that same kind of light and realize that they have a different consciousness model than we have, that we may actually coexist on a regular basis with them.
Right.
In some way but because of the vast differences, we are not aware of them, but they are aware of us. My perception is that they are using us for our energy. It always comes down to energy. If it moves, it eats. It's just that simple. It's a law of the universe.
Yeah, in this case, you believe they're eating our energy signatures that are left behind or that we create, or
somehow or another they're eating us. Exactly how that is, I don't know. But I have seen visions of their craft operating in Yet Zero. I've seen it. Every psychic I know, every psychic I've ever met, they are either totally aware of ET, they've had continual contact with ET, or around their houses there are dozens of ET craft are seen. You can go out to almost any active psychic's house, and there are ET craft all over the place. Okay, regularly. I don't believe me. What's this guy's name that I had dinner with him one night? What the hell? He's got a ranch up in California, Northern California. What the hell's his name? Anyway.
Okay. Anyhow, as soon as we figure out who it is, we'll tell people. But until then, he's got a ranch, and
he's got a ranch up there, and he's a mystic, and he charges people money. They come up to hang out with him, and then he has a sensation when ET around. They take him out and they videotape ET craft moving around inside of his ranch area.
Now, wait, is this ESETI?
ESETI
with James Gilliland.
That's right, Gillian.
Yeah.
That's the guy.
Yeah.
He's another classic example of someone who's psychic,
right?
And has a lot of ET around him, and he's totally aware of it, and he makes money off of it. Right. Same thing was happening with Stephen Greer and his girlfriend Sherry Adamek. Sherry Adamek was psychic. Originally, I don't think Greer was aware that he was psychic, but hanging around with psychic people, you become psychic eventually, and you awaken. And so, with this a backdrop, as the backdrop, the ancient literature suggests that we were made in the Garden of Eden, which is in Arabian country, incidentally, Iraq.
Yeah,
Garden of Eden
true.
Was in Arabia, where the Arabs were, and that the first beings on Earth were the dragons, and they landed there in spaceship 150,000 years ago. And the most ancient writings on Earth, which is written in Sanskrit in the Upanishads, the Rig Veda, says that they made humans in the Garden of Eden to act as slaves. And in the Old Testament Bible, it talks about how the early creators of man, when they weren't working us to death, they were fornicating with us, and meaning they were having sex with our women. And when they weren't having sex with our women, they were eating us.
Ugh, God.
Okay, we're talking about the dragons here. We're talking about reptilians. These are reptilians that landed on Earth 150,000 years ago. These reptilians, all right, are the spitting image of the jinn. They're the spitting image of the devil. The jinn and the devil, the word devil, which is Dalet Bayet Lamed, Hebrew, pronounced as devil, means the red ones. Arabic is for the red ones, and Hebrew is for the red ones, but it synonymously today means evil. They're mean, nasty, and evil. When they're not working us to death, they're screwing our women, and when they're not screwing our women, they're eating us.
Oh, God. Okay, now
I don't know how much more evil you can get than that. Okay, and the meanest, nastiest people on Earth, the ones that are cutting off people's heads with butcher knives, are also the people that have the most black magic on the planet.
Okay.
And people think that the MK Ultra people are the ones that are attacking our people. Well, I can tell you what, our military doesn't attack us. If anybody's attacking us, it's the Arabs. It's the Arab black magicians that are doing it.
Okay, now I'm not saying you're absolutely 100% right. I'm going to agree with you most wholeheartedly to a point.
That's okay, because you're entitled to your opinions.
Yeah, and only because, and I'm just going to throw this out to you, is I have too many friends that are under some type of mind control that absolutely feel and know it's American people that are dealing with them because of the way they speak to them in their heads. I've asked them this question. I've said, look, do they sound like they're foreign? I've asked this to so many people, and I'm getting no, these are just regular schmoes in America. I can tell you they all say this. Okay. So what's your response to that?
Well, if you put orange glasses on and you look outside and everything's all orange, and somebody asks you, what color is it out there? And you say it's orange. It's about knowledge base. Mysticism and mind control. Okay, first of all, we have to talk about how does mind control work. Okay, I've done a fair amount of study in this area because, well, I'm interested in the subject, number one. And two, because I've had a number of friends who are also being attacked. They weren't as severely attacked as I was. Perhaps it was a different kind of attack. Maybe my attack was actually alien attack. I believe what happened in my case is I got too close to the reptilian truth because I could see their craft. I could see the green beams coming out of the bottom of their black triangle craft as they're hovering over people's houses, turning and they're harvesting them. As best as I could tell, they were harvesting them and me. And that's why our houses are all lined up in neat little rows. We get the urge to do everything nice and organized. Why? Because the reptilians want to be able to drive their craft like a production line right down from TV dinner to TV dinner, We're the TV dinners. Maybe what I experienced was different from what other people are experiencing. That's a possibility. And I'm not unwilling to consider it. But I know something about the military. I know the people. My father was a high-ranking military officer. All my members of my family have been military officers. My people fought and bled for this country. Okay, that's and many people's fathers and brothers fought and bled for this country. It's just not the military way. But when you look at how the knowledge base of people work, what people see in their dreams, how people perceive reality is based on what they already know. To give an example of this is one time I was painting. I was inside of a bathroom. I think I've already told you the story about being in a bathroom. It was completely white. There was nothing in there. It was completely, all the windows, everything was blocked off, and we had spray painted it white. Mm-hmm. And the floor had a white drop cloth in it. And I opened the door for a minute, and a great big black fly came into the room with me. This is a little tiny room.
Okay.
We're talking about 7 feet by 6 feet. It's an outdoors off the swimming pool's bathroom. But nothing was in there because they were remodeling it. There was no sink. There was no toilet.
Sure.
Everything was closed off. There was no windows. It was just a door, and everything had been spray painted white. And here's this great big black fly in there. I could hear him. I watched him fly around for a minute, and then it disappeared right before my eyes. Did he use magic to disappear? No. What was going on was I was looking around inside that room, and my mind, my memory, memorized the information.
Right.
The fly was not changing the information enough to cause my eyes to be pulling in real-time information. What I was doing is my brain was supplanting it with memories of the room. So I was not actually seeing with my eyes, I was seeing with my memory. This is what most people do all the time. This is why when people get up to help people solve problems, when you go to a psychiatrist and laying on it, they're teaching you how to be responsive and not reactive.
Yes,
one is reactive memory, one's responsive memory. Well, when you ask a person what they're experiencing and they're being attacked, and the only knowledge base they have, they don't really know how sonic attacks work. They don't really know how it's getting into them. They don't really know much about the subject, but it's a very personal, subjective experience. So it's very compelling. They know they're being attacked. There's no doubt about it. And the only thing they can think of, because they've heard somebody else tell them it was the military, if they'd heard it was the Arabs, they'd be thinking it was the Arabs doing it. If everybody was saying it was the Arabs doing it, they'd be thinking it was the Arabs doing it. Or they were talking English. Well, if it's psionic, It doesn't come to you as it doesn't come to us as movie or as words. It comes to you as a knowingness.
That's
Mysticism
true.
and psychic information is a knowingness. It's not like a movie. It's not like it's written words. It's not like you're hearing words. If they're hearing words, what they're doing is their memory is supplanting that information. It's translating outside information. In remote viewing, this is called telepathic overlay.
Yeah. Okay, guess what? We got to stop at telepathic overlay, and we'll be right back, folks. We've already hit another break, so stay with us. I'm going to confront Plutronus with some chat room information here after the break, so this will be intriguing. Stay with us.
You're locked into Inception Radio Network, Superior, Wisconsin.
Don't have a computer? Is your internet connection down? Don't worry. Use your trusty cell phone or landline and call into our listen line at 401-283-6700 to listen to the Inception Radio Network 24/7. Again, that call-in number is 401-283-6700. For the Inception Radio Network, I am MJ.
Hi, Inception Radio Network listeners. This is Amanda. Just a reminder that Inception Radio Network is on Twitter. Follow us at I_R_N and keep up to date about who's on tonight, what interviews they'll be doing, who's guest spotting, what topics they'll be covering. Tweet to us, tweet about us, retweet topics to your friends, and most importantly, never miss a great show again. That's I_R_N.
Do you have a smartphone? If so, Inception Radio Network is the best app for you. Available on iTunes, Android, Samsung, and most other app stores. Just search Inception Radio Network. With the app you can listen live, check out podcasts of recent and past shows, view our videos, see what shows are coming up, who the guests are, and, via the chat room, send live questions to those guests. You know it makes sense. Check your app store now. Inception Radio Network. I'll see you there.
Are you looking for a cure for boredom? Never worry. IRN's new interactive website introduces a number of ways to pass time while you listen to your favorite show. Choose anything from the IRN chat lounge, the game lounge, video lounge, or the mood lounge. These fun, exciting features let you chat in real time with fellow listeners, view live skywatches, play daily posted online games, or pick a show based on topic. The choices are endless. Use your time wisely, keeping it all on IRN.
Hello, everyone. Lorien Fenton here, host of the California MUFON Radio Show, asking if you'd like special access to exclusive and amazing information about UFOs, the paranormal, and all things unexplained. If you're nodding yes, then join IRN's Insider Club. As an Insider Club member, you'll get an all-access pass to premier Inception Radio Network content for only $4.99 a month. This includes live UFO and paranormal conferences, live streaming UFO skywatches, exclusive IRN radio and TV productions, and of course, paying radio with MJ and Ken Storch. So don't wait any longer. Visit InceptionRadioNetwork.com and click on Member Login to join IRN's Insider Club and get your VIP access today. Welcome back, everyone. We're here on the California MUFON Radio Show here on Inception Radio Network. And I hope you guys have got your apps by now because, every week I'm pounding you about the app. But the other thing I needed to talk to you about that I completely forgot about is the Insiders Club. I hope you guys are doing that as well because, the $4.95 a month that you're putting up for the Insiders Club is going to get you all kinds of fun things that I've got planned coming up this year. I don't have time until in April, May, and June to start doing what I'm planning on doing, which is these special events that'll be online. There'll be an hour or two, and there'll be like private chats with friends and people like Plutronus and my friend Ralph and Marcia Ring and my good friend Mark McCandlish and just people that I get in my car on weekends and I drive around and I visit all my friends. And it'll probably be just Lorien's friends and that's it. And you'll get all these private conversations and they'll be on video. They'll be recorded. Be lots of fun. They'll be on IRN. They'll be in the Insiders Club, so you're going to want to join that. So join it when you can, because pretty soon there's going to be all kinds of fun stuff up there from me. So I hope you want to see it. I really do. Okay, great. Well, thanks a lot for joining the Insiders Club as soon as you do. All right, Plutronus, are you there?
Hi.
Hi. Okay, now, during the break, I I confronted Plutronus in a very polite way as I could. And let's see here. Now, my phone is ringing the minute I said that. Got to ignore that. Okay. I asked Plutronus a couple questions from the chat that were about his attitude towards Arabs. So, Plutronus, will you please kind of straighten that out for us, because there are some people that think you're being a little over the top on it, and that's all I'm going to say at this point.
Well, my initial reaction is
no, now don't ridiculous. You say that.
That was my initial reaction, but when I'm saying these things about the Arabs, I'm talking about a specific class of Arab that's doing evil things. Right. Probably a third of my friends are Arabs. I have Persian friends. I have Arab friends. I have Armenian friends. They're all Arab. That's all Arab background countries.
That's right. Yep.
My friend Shireen, she's the director of peace studies in Chile. She's a friend of mine. I introduced her into and believe it or not, I introduced her to an Apache Indian who loved her so much that they invited her as a honorary member of the Apache people in New Mexico. And she's been a member and been going down there for years. She comes to all my parties, and both of them, actually, Apache Indians also come to my parties. I have all kinds of friends. I have to be careful because many of my friends are Jewish, and they don't like the Arabs. And so sometimes I have these really interesting parties where I have about, maybe they're like 5 or 6 Arabs and there are 5 or 6 Jews, and they're just not getting along, man. You think, but I'm not. I don't believe that I'm prejudiced.
I gotta say, folks, I've known Tron now for quite a few years. We were just discussing it the other day, and I don't think he's prejudiced either. I think he's passionate about his beliefs about different areas where things come from, or can come from, or how they are through ethnic cultures or cultural situations or society. And I think he's just very passionate about that. So
thanks.
That's my opinion. And I give him all the leeway for that too.
So, and I have my friend Carl Shirai. He's an Arab. He's
exactly. Yeah.
I have Arab friends. I think the Arabs have been getting a lot of heat for a lot of, they're thugs over there doing really bad, nasty things to everybody. We only hear the Americanized version of the news, and all we hear is about how they're doing it to our people, but they're doing it to everybody over there. They're Absolutely. Killing women and children left and right all over the place, and it's a small group of them. They're the fundamentalists that are they have ignoramus people who are out there, they get up in the morning and they go over and urinate in a hole in the ground, and they go out and they don't wash their hands. They go over and they pull the goat milk out by grabbing by the nipples, and then they go out and they preach to the other heathens in their crowd, and they're not educated. We're talking about mountain people that are doing these interpretations of their idea of the Bible and God's word, and they're and the Muslim people as a whole are very, most of them are Zoroastrians. They're loving. They're spiritual people. They're people. They're normal people. They think differently than we do, but that doesn't mean they're bad people.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
I have. So when he's talking about somebody like that, it's always out of context. And
that's because you have to you use the word Arab and it was generalized, and there we go. So, hey, why don't we just let that dead horse lie?
All right. Anyway, I
We're
apologize to
done.
anybody who
Anyhow.
thinks I'm a hateful, no good SOB. I'm really not. I have friends of every walk and race. People think I'm, I'm not that way. I'm the first guy. If I see somebody broken down on the freeway and I pull over and it turns out to be an Arab family, I'll help them just as fast as I'll help a black family or Hispanic family or Caucasian or a Frenchman. It's all about love, man.
Yeah, it really is. And that's another point they were all making in the chat room too, is that, isn't it really all about love in the end anyhow? And that's what you kind of preach with your Kabbalah, right?
Yes, it is.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I that's why I'm having Plutronus specify things for us tonight, because he gets very passionate, folks. You got to understand, he's very passionate about the things that are being done to us on this energetic level that is against our will in many cases, correct?
That's right. Well, I went through 10 years of it myself.
Yes.
And I've had a number of my friends killed by it. And my beloved Millicent Coleman is buried in the ground because of it. And, all I can say is this is, and then I hear people who are responding to their knowledge base, and maybe they are being attacked by the military. I just don't believe it. That's my personal opinion. I don't believe the military is attacking our own people. I believe we're being attacked by people that hate our guts.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're going to leave that. And what we're going to do is we're going to all the questions, the beautiful and extraordinary questions that we've been getting out of the chat room tonight. So, and we got just enough time to to get to this. So here's the first one. This one's originally from Sky 33. Has Plutronus ever heard of an orb or energy ball in someone's house which has communicated with a human through telepathy? And I think you have a great answer for that one, don't you?
Well, it happened to me.
Exactly.
It happened to me, and also happened to a guy named Joe Firmage, who was a software engineer for many years, and he was a C programmer, and he created a company called Sirius Technology, Sirius. Very interesting, because Sirius is in the star system where the reptilians come from. There is a strong reptilian. By the way, there are good reptilians and bad reptilians.
Yes.
Just as a matter of reference. And we might as well, it doesn't matter whether we crawl out of the sea on our bellies, like the, like the scientists would like us to believe, or whether we were hatched in a laboratory by dragons. Who cares where we came from? Just as long as somewhere down the line there's a good one.
Yep.
Okay, yep. But yes, Sky 33. Did you? I guess. Yes, it's happened. I know that at least.
Okay.
It's happened to 3 different people, including me.
There we go. So we got that answer. Great. Now, American Road Warrior wants to know: are the men in black? Do you think they're ETs?
Yes.
Wow. Do you have any story around why you think that?
Well, it's very hard to get information on this subject. And the closer you get to the authentic alien truth, 2 things happen. It's surrounded in a cloud of BS, stinky, great big copious clouds of BS. And authentic information is very hard to come by. The Men in Black, the first Men in Black was by a guy named Bender. I think his name is Alfred J.K. Bender, something like that.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
And he saw something. I think he saw, that's what it was. He was on a lake in a boat, and he saw a craft squirting out angel hair. And he went, and he started publishing a little magazine on a mimeograph machine, and he started doing it, and that's when these mechanical, strange. He said in his review, it wasn't Flying Saucer Review, it was something like a Flying Saucer Review, that they didn't look human. They were pasty white. They were all dressed in black. They had the image of FBI men, but FBI didn't dress that way in those days. It was like a precursor to the way the FBI men dress today. and drove the kinds of cars they drive today, but they weren't doing that in those days. It was a different show back then, but they showed up and they threatened him, and something in the way that he said that they didn't seem like they were alive. They didn't have a sensation. It was like he was looking at walking, talking corpses kind of feeling. And it gave him a really spooky feeling. That was the first instance. There was another instance of Men in Black happening in, I think it was, we're just talking about Wisconsin today. I think it happened in Wisconsin with a guy named Gary Mueller. I think there's a guy named Gary Mueller. He was a newspaper journalist who had a run-in. I remember. He saw the Mothmen. He saw the Mothmen.
That's right. Yeah.
And they had a Men in Black experience up there. Same kind of thing. And it's apparently my impression, based on what little information you can get on the subject, is that they're ET enforcers. Yeah. They're like the Knights of Columbus were with the Catholic Church. They're the Gestapo with the Nazis, the Third Reich, the real Hitler guys, guys out there. They're with the real Hitler thinking. The ones that were hanging the Jews in the middle of the night.
Yeah, that was really, let's not even go there because that'll just get us more in trouble. Okay, let's go on to the next question. This is from Cruzy. Cruzy says, does Plutronus think that the mind control is done by ETs or by humans from other various groups on the planet? Well, we've already established the fact that we think they're done by humans. Do you think there's any possibility the ETs are doing mind control as well?
I believe most of it's ET.
Most of it is. Okay,
I believe. There is. We were talking at the show break, Lorien and I, about psionic mind control. There is, without a question of a doubt, that is something that, without a question of doubt, it's got to be being experimented with. Most of you probably don't know, but I was a military engineer. In fact, my entire lifetime, as a professional engineer, I worked mostly for military companies. And I at one time owned my own military research company, myself and two guys. Everything we did was classified, everything. And while I personally did not have any direct contact with psionics, I did on one of my contracts, which I can't go into too much detail on, did involve artificial intelligence, but it wasn't done with active intelligence. It was done with neural nets, software algorithms, kind of stuff. Very slow, very clunky, very low tech, in my opinion. It is possible, in my opinion, that an artificial synthetic consciousness, and that's kind of tricky because telepathy is obviously a good way. If there is a good way, I mean, we're talking about the transport mechanism here. It is a good way to impose and to have direct mind control. The idea of using microwaves and stuff is just not workable, in my opinion. And I know a lot about microwaves. In fact, I just bought a very, very nice spectrum analyzer, Hewlett-Packard spectrum analyzer.
I love those.
New is $75,000. I got it for considerably less. Considerably less.
Good for you. Okay, but next question.
The point is that
you're not done. I'm sorry.
The point is that I believe it is possible using technology to psychically transmit impositional. I won't say as thoughts or words. I don't think that's possible because of the way the mind works and what you learn in the Kabbalah. Telepathy is a knowingness. But you can get an impression, or you can get something that'll attach to your, with the intent of pulling power out of your heart, and it'll make you sick. Mm-hmm. Or it can affect your energy field, your chi field, CHI, your chi fields, or the sympathetic nervous system in such a way that it can actually cause you to have, tumors pop out and things like that. But it takes a lot of power. It takes somehow to tune it. You have to aim it at somebody in a sea of minds. I mean, you look at everything Everything alive on Earth has a mind. That's plants, ants, dogs, cats, birds, the krill in the sea, the seas, the sharks, everything that's alive has a mind. And so it's a sea of minds out there. Somehow you have to tune it to one specific mind with the primary purpose of causing them harm in some way. That's impositional telepathy, okay? So I think it's possible to do it technically. I just don't see our military doing it to our own people. I can see the Russians doing it to us because they don't like us. I can see the Arabs doing it to us, but I don't think they're doing it with technology. I think they're doing it with covens.
We've got just a few minutes left. I really do want to get to everybody else's question, and I think this next one is probably being answered as you were speaking, and I cut you off. And that is, does Plutronus think that one's own human mind is enough to combat mind control, or are we completely helpless to the effects against us?
Great question. Millicent protected me for 3 years until she trained me well enough so that I could do it myself. And I protect myself now. To answer your question, whether it was a machine or whether it was a demented human being or whether it was a reptilian just having dinner, and I don't think it's that. If it's a reptilian, I believe I'm conscious enough to see them now. I think it's just harvesting. Irregardless, we have the right and we have the power to be able to defend ourselves. But remember that mysticism has been banned on Earth for centuries. And the only people that it benefits through banning are the bad guys. Now, whoever the bad guys are is something you have to find out for yourself. I believe it's the reptilians. So, yes, we can defend ourselves. Yes, and a very good book on this is by Dion Fortune. It's called Psychic Self-Defense. Very good book. That's right.
I remember that book. I have it.
And you can also get that book online through the biblioteques. It's called the biblioteques. It's a website, an archive website, which the search engines are no longer returning. But if you look around for it, you can find it. It's called Biblioteki. It's, I think, hosted out of Mexico or something, or Chile. And the Psychic Self-Defense is online on that website, and you can download it for free or read it for free.
Excellent. Okay, next question. I'm trying to get through and I want to take 1 minute just to promote UFO Con, and that you'll be there, and what we're going to do. Okay.
We're going to have a good time.
Second to last question. Does he think that the jinn are the same as tricksters, as our American version of a trickster?
Robert Bigelow coined that term, tricksters, with T. In fact, he said it to me. I was at a conference, and he was there to see me and my platform, and which I demonstrated to him. I believe that the tricksters are. I don't think that it's a complicated. There's two different issues going on there. But to answer your question, yes to one and no to the other. The yes part is yes, ET are tricksters without a question of doubt. But the jinn are also tricksters, but for a different reason. We think of the jinn as being like the devil, and it's always been here. Well, if you stop to consider that the reptilians landed here 150,000 years ago, from our perspective, they have always been here. What's curious is, where did they go? Where did the reptilians go? Where are they now? We think of them as being the pseudo-spiritual beings. But if you had the technology to take your entire civilization, because you developed a new energy source instead of relying on gasoline and fuel and motor oil and stuff, and electricity, let's say you came up with a new kind of energy that allowed you to take your entire civilization and move it up in one dimension. Would you do it? Of course you would. Why? Yeah. Because you get access to everybody else's energy, and they can't even see you.
That's true. Okay, last question, and then we got 1 minute left. What would Stephen Greer think about Plutronus's claims that ETs are eating people? What do you think Stephen would say about that, Tron?
I haven't got a clue.
That's funny. That's really funny. I think he'd probably agree with you. I don't know.
I've heard so many different things from Stephen over the years. I just have to say one thing about him. I want you guys to remember this. Stephen Greer has perfect memory recall.
Yeah, he does.
So he remembers details. He remembered that I had a little lapel pin on my shirt when I talked to him in a line of about 40 people at a MUFON meeting, and then I ran into him over at the Baha'i Center, and he was in there with a bunch of elders talking about, asking questions, spiritual questions. And I was a member of the Baha'i for a long. That's an Arabic church, incidentally. I was a member of that church for a long time, and I dated 3 of the Arabic girls there. I just want you guys to know that's how much I hate those Arabs. I hate those Arab boys.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's why you're in bed with them. I'm telling you. Okay.
Oh, that's literally the truth.
Okay. Okay. We can't go down that path. Oh, my God. We're going to get in real trouble here.
I can tell you one thing. They're hot lovers.
Oh, see, there we go, folks. There we go. So, so you ran into Stephen. He remembers the pin, and you're thinking what out of that?
My thinking is that I think he believes that all of his attacks on himself were caused by I believe this. I could be mistaken, but I believe that he believes that all the attacks were military attacks on him. And when he says military, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's American military. There are all kinds of militaries out there, and all of them are experimenting. The French are experimenting with psionics. The Russians are experimenting with psionics. They're 7,500 years ahead of us in that. The Brazilians, the Koreans. The Koreans are big on remote viewing, by the way, and they hate
Oh,
our
yeah,
guts.
you bet they are. That's another whole show topic we got to do sometime.
Okay, I mean, the reason why remote viewing's gone classified again is because it's so easy to do. And it leaked out of U.S. military confines, and the Koreans were going, oh, we can do that. Okay, and these guys are practicing sending nuclear weapons into Canada. They're sending duds. When I was at ITT, they were sending duds 2 miles from our border. These are we're talking about mock-ups, guided missile mock-ups. Okay.
The show's over. We didn't even get to talk about UFOCon, so everybody get to UFOCon2015.com on your website, UFO2015.com on your internet, I meant to say, and check it out. Tron will be there, and he's going to talk about all kinds of things great and extraordinary, so you can't miss that. Be there. Thanks, everybody. Have a great week. We'll see you next time here on the California MUFON Radio Show. Good night.